Okay. So we are holding by Torah Aleph of the second Chelek, Likutey Moharan II. And we learned that every Jew, a synopsis, every Jew was created to have dominion over the Malachim, over the angels. And they said there's a struggle involved in that, because the Malachim do not want a person to have dominion over them. They want to have, the access to Kadosh Baruch Hu. And when a person is zeichet to have dominion over them, we explained that the jealousy of the Malachim stems from, from zealotry, from, kina la'emes, that they cannot comprehend how is it possible that a person who's flesh and blood can have dominion over Malachim, which have no gashmis whatsoever. And because of that, obviously, Kadosh Baruch Hu created it in such a way that in order for for the Malachim to be envious of men and try to prevent him from getting dominion over them. And by doing that, when a person, is working on himself, and fights the opposition of the Malachim, of the angels, it makes it possible for him to have dominion over them and to bring the world to its tachlis, to its intended goal. That's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted it to be. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has billions and billions and trillions and quadrillions and whatever number you want to call it. Numbers that a person couldn't count. A person lived for 1,000,000 years. And all he did from birth to death was just count. 1,000,000 years won't be able to. There's not enough molecules in this world for this number. And this is above and above and above. Kadosh Baruch Hu, that doesn't impress a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants that people will serve him, people who are basav adam, people that are struggling with the Yetzer Hara, and failing most of the time. That's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants things to run in this world. In this week's Pasha, because of Yishlach, so they said that Yaakov Avinu sent Malachim to Esav, and he says to them, Kotomru, this is what you will say, La'adoini le'Esav, to my master, to Esav. Slovan, in Lovan Garti, I have lived with Lovan. ויהי לי שור וחמור. ויהי Lovan Garti, ואיכר עד עתו, and I was detained until now. ויהי לי שור וחמור. שור מלאכים. Amen. ויהי לי שור וחמור. All I had was a donkey. ושלח להגיד לנו, and I sent Malachim to tell my master. Rashi says, why is this Lashon that Yaakov Avinu uses? This is what you will tell La'adoini La'esav, to our master, to Esav. This is what you should say to Esav. Adoini Esav, whatever, but was it La'adoini La'esav, to Adoini to Esav. Not only that, it says in Lovan Garti, I resided with Lovan. Va'echor ad ata. Garti, Rashi says, two perushim. One of them is Garti, I was just a ger, I was just a resident, I was not a citizen, I was not, I was like a stranger, it doesn't belong. It says Garti is the letters of Taryag, 613 mitzvahs. So he's telling Esav in Lovan Garti, Taryag mitzvahs shamalti. I resided with Lovan and I kept 613 mitzvahs. So the Noam Elimelech asks about this. I mean, what is this lashon mean? La'adoini Esav, and what's this thing? You want to appease Esav. So what are you telling him, that you kept 630 mitzvahs? What are you telling him by this? You can't. I mean, you can't fight me because I'm much stronger than you. And Lavan is the master sorcerer, and he couldn't do anything to me. Obviously, you won't. I was able to keep 613 mitzvahs. You want to appease him. That's not a language of appeasement. So the Melech says, he says that tzaddikim, whenever it is that they speak to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and they speak to whoever it is that they're speaking to at the same time. So he said,
they speak to what?
He says to speak to Hashem, and he speaks to whoever it is he's speaking at the same time.
Who?
And he said, the tzaddikim, the Noam Elimelech says, that's what the tzaddik does. Whenever he speaks, he has two audiences that he's speaking to. He's speaking to Hashem, and he's speaking to whoever it is that he's talking to. So he says, that's the lashon. This is what you will say. La'adoini, that's the Kodesh Baruch Hu. La'esav, that's the Esav. There are two messages there. One to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and one to Esav. In Lovan Garti, the message to Esav is, I lived by Lovan, and I was just a ger, I was just a stranger. He resides there for a while. I was never part of the scenery, I was never. That is the message of Kodesh Baruch Hu, not. So Kodesh Baruch Hu should help him. And divrei pi chocham chaim. It's very interesting why go a little on a tangent here. Another explanation, why would Yaakov Avinu know that if he tells Esau that he has endured Lavan, that Esau will go back and will not, will refrain from, that has to do when Yaakov Avinu, last week's Parsha, when Yaakov Avinu went to Haran, Lavan came to him, because you remember the last time that somebody from, Eretz Yisrael, from Lavan and Yitzchak came, he came bearing gifts and gold and silver and jewelry, and so he ran out to him, and he says, and he hugged him and he kissed him, and he says, he didn't have anything. He kissed him, said maybe Yaakov Avinu has gems in his mouth. Nothing. Well, where's all his money? Yaakov Avinu comes out with nothing. I mean, Yitzchak is a billionaire. People used to say, I'd rather have, the zevel of the mules of Yitzchak than the gold of Avimelech. I mean, and here his son is going to Haran without a penny in his pocket. What's going on? This is b'makli avatis hayalden. I think this is with my stick. That's it. The only thing he had is just a stick in his hand. What happened was that Esau sent Eliphaz, his elder, to chase Yaakov Avinu and to kill him. Yaakov Avinu took the bracha from Esau. Esau sends Eliphaz. Question is, why didn't Esau chasten himself? Why send Eliphaz, right? Now, Eliphaz was learning, the knees of Yaakov Avinu, the feet of Yitzchak Avinu. He was a student of Yitzchak, Eliphaz. Later on, at the end of the Parsha, when they talk about Alufei Edom, the champions of Edom, and it retells all the sorry saga of Esau's family. Total immorality to the point of read Rashi, not to be believed. The first one that started it, with there's a whole shenanigans, whatever it is Eliphaz. Yitzchak is sending Eliphaz. I mean, Yaakov. Esau is sending Eliphaz, his son, and to kill Yaakov. And he catches Yaakov before he crosses the Yarden River. So he wants to kill him, but he was a tzaddik. And I'll tell you a little bit more. Eliphaz was a tzaddik at that time. Yaakov, convinced him not to kill him. He says, what do I do with the order of my father? Esau told him to kill him, his uncle. So Yaakov Avinu said, take all my money, take everything that I have. And Oni, a poor person, is considered like somebody who's not living in this world. As Rabbeinu says, it's Masin about Tefillah, that in the Medina of money, everybody is considered according to how much money he has. And some people have so little money they don't consider human beings. I consider like human cockroaches, human lion, humans, just like the Sami, they have so much money they're considered to be a star, and considered a superstar, and considered to be a god, considered whatever. So he said, but somebody who has no money at all is considered he's not even alive. Okay. So Eliphaz takes his money and he goes away. Now, when you open up one of the most poetic, amazing books in the Tanakh, is the first, is Eov. Eov Lamaisa is chronologically is the earliest, is even before Matan Torah. And his four friends that come to console him when he's going through all the suffering and everything, the first one who speaks, who is it? And you should see what he's saying. It's like Nevuah and Ruach HaKodesh, unbelievable stuff. Eliphaz Atimni, come from the south, from Al Seir. Eliphaz, the son of this miserable, immoral, whatever it is as it comes out to be at that particular time, it's Ruach HaKodesh coming from his mouth. You read what he's saying, and you go like, wow. Happened was as follows. The reason why Esau sent Eliphaz, last week we learned that Rachel stole the trophim, the idols of her father, so that her father won't be able to find out where they are. So you shouldn't serve, idolatry and whatever. What were these trophim? What is this? What is a statue? A box? What is it? What is the trophim? That she steals it and she hides it and this, and she dies because of it. What's the trophim? What is this thing? So the Medrash explains the trophim are the head of a firstborn human being, that they take the skin off the head and they put it over, I don't know exactly what it is, and they put where the mouth is supposed to be, they put this kind of a note with shemus, of kishuf, and you burn incense before it, and you can ask it whatever you want, and he tells it. Esav was a Bechor. He didn't want to chase Yaakov Avinu because he was afraid that Lavan, he was a Bechor. Lavan says, another trophy, another trophy, right? I have another trophy here. And all of this, Esav was this.
Well, they were heads of people?
Yeah. The head of a firstborn.
So you carry.
Yeah, they didn't fool around. There's the wizards. They didn't fool around.
They ask for the question and the answer sheet.
Yeah.
Sounds like a smart comment.
Well,
There were just any people? So those trophim, who were they?
I have no idea, whatever it is. But the thing that worked was, the firstborn. Quite a few things the Gemara also mentions, that the firstborn has a special koyach, whatever it is. But anyhow, so Esav didn't want to chase Yaakov Avinu.
Eliphaz also firstborn.
Now you got it. Now you understand why Eliphaz afterward became such a horrible, immoral thing. His father sends him.
You go, I wait here.
Yeah, you go. Everything's going to be okay. There's a story that the soldiers caught a 12-year-old Arab kid was carrying a bomb on a suicide mission. 12-year-old. So when they caught him, they said, "What did they tell you?" So they said that the kid said that the people that sent him said, "You go, you expose yourself among the Jews, and in return you'll get 100 shekels, and an appointment was." No, not in this world. In this world, you'll get this and 100 shekels, spending money. Okay, so Esav tried that trick with Eliphaz. So Eliphaz says, "Okay, this is what my value is." So he did what he did. Read Rashi. So how do
That's how
we
you
get
get Amalek. or something, right?
what?
From him
Yeah,
come-
yeah. His son was Amalek.
What?
His son was Amalek. Eliphaz's son, I believe, was Amalek. Anyhow, so the battle against the Malachim is the thing that's the back and forth. It allows a Jew to get dominion. They say, yeah, but how does a person keep himself away or secure from the power of the Malachim to push him off, to push him down? So the answer is you connect yourself to the root of Nishmas Yisrael. That's Kisa Kovod, that's a Shechina, that's Bina, Malchus Bina. How do you do that? He says you recognize, you connect yourself to all the tzaddikim of generation. It's a very, very important Musar Askel here, that people, especially in our midst, like to say, that like ours, Rabbeinu, and everybody else is like, come on, No, the Rabbeinu says you're supposed to connect yourself, give conscious to all the, old for Ador, all those who are famous in the generation, but you can only do it, can only gain that if you're connected to the true Nefesamim, to the true Tzaddikim. But there's certain people amongst them that their notoriety, their fame, there is derived of azus, chutzpah, boldness. So comes the question: how are you able to tell? How are you able to tell who is a person that is be'emes and who is a person that is al pi azus? Now, when you look at it, on the surface, it is like, just like we're saying, connect yourself to all the true tzaddikim, and bada bim, bada boom, it's done. Apparently, it's not. Because the entire Torah, from that moment on, at the end, deals with the process that a person needs to go through to ascertain who are the true tzaddikim and who are mefusamim through azus. All Torah. It begins with having complete yira. You have complete yira, says the Rebbe, but the problem is with yira is that there are three, traits that stirs the yira. When you have a yira, then everything is done. And these are taivas moment, taivas achila, and taivas noshim. The Rebbe says, as we learned, when a person keeps the shlosha regalim, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, with this kind of intent. In other words, it's not just it happens automatically. You keep it, then you have to have this intent. You have to work on yourself. Then the Yom Tov helps you, to overcome it. Pesach, overcomes this gula, suspicious to overcome Taivas Mammon, and Shavuos is auspicious to be Sakan, Tav Noshin, and Sukkot is Takan Tavis Chila. Once this is done, it says Takan is Sholosh Midos. It says then you have this Binyan Yerushalayim, you have this Yira Shlema. Yerushalayim is a matrikan of Yerushalayim. When you build Yerushalayim, Siman Vav, this is what we learned last week. You rectify the ear and the heart. That creates an angel. That angel is Mashpia Nevuah to the clan of Nevuah, which is Nesach Behod. Shnei Akruvim. And then a person can be get Ashpos and Nevuah, and a person needs to be very, very careful from being appointed, a job, a high job. I'm like the vice president, I'm the CEO of whatever. I'm a rebel, I'm a rogue, I'm a this, I'm a that, whatever. Stay away from that. Because Ismanos bleeds off the Nevuah. It's either this or that. And we learned it last week when Elder the Medad were prophesying. And Amachne Yeshua suggested, give them some Ismanos, appoint them Secretary of State, Secretary of this, and they will dissolve by themselves. And now we hold a Siman Ches. This is as follows: Validei Ashpos HaNevuah, by the Ashpos of the Nevuah. The Rebbe says, Afal pi she'en mishi snaber. There is nobody in the world that will actually prophesize. We're not holding by that. There is Nevuah in the world. There's a presence in the world of Nevuah, and we explained last week that Nevuah is a combination of Emunah and Yediyah, knowing and believing, because Nevuah comes in the keli of the Nevuah, but the Nevi'im is biyad Nevi'im Adamah. This is Dimyan. It's Koyach HaMedamah, the imagination. Kadosh Baruch Hu sends the message through the imagination of the Nevi'im, and they imagine the Nevuah. Now we all know that the Medamah, the imagination, the power to imagine is very fickle. And it's very sensitive, very easy to corrupt it. And not only, in the low people use the Medama to things that, that are happen. But also in higher materials, in Chiddushei Torah. Even then, the value of Chiddushei Torah only as much as the amount of truth, the amount of truth that is in these Dibur. They say that Rabbeinu says, first of all, he says that the Nekudas HaEmes in the Dibur, in the Torah, he says there is a tzaddik whose madrega, the tzaddik emes, his madrega is such that his Dibur Chol, speaking about Dibur Chol, is on a higher level than the Torah of a lower tzaddik. Why? Because his madrega of emes is that much higher. There's a book in a sefer that was published during the days of the Gra, the Vilna Gaon, and in there was a chiddush. I think we spoke about it once before. It says, why do we begin the tefillah in the morning with Odon Oilam? That's the first thing it says. Why do we say it in the beginning of the tefillah? So the Mechaber says as follows. You know, in the Mishnah says, what's the Seder Avodah in Beis Hamikdash? Before the sacrifice, the first korban, one of the Kohanim goes up, on the Zohar top, and looks to the east. And he says that, why is in the east? He said, Heiru Pnei HaMizrach. The face of the east has looked, no, the sun. The sun is already high enough that there's light in the east. What is it got to do with anything? So Chazal explained, it's not because of the sun, but because east of Jerusalem is Hebron. And we want to mention the schus of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, those who sleep in Hebron. So the first thing before you begin the Avodah Beis Hamikdash, you start with, reminding the schus of Yeshayna Hebron, sleepers of Hebron, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So that's why, says this Mechaber, we started tefillah with Odon Oilam, because Avraham Avinu was the first to call HaKadosh Baruch Hu Odon, master. So we are mentioning Odon Oilam to be masked the schus of Yeshayna Hebron, the very same way they started with the Hamikdash. The Gra was in love with this chiddush. When you take a look at the Chiddushei Gra, and it's beautiful, but it's in complexity and in depth, and okay, it's a vote. This is true, but it's true. The Gra was in love with this chiddush because of the emes in it. It was so true that the Gra was nimshach to that. That's the main thing. And the inner of nevuah is that when a person believes and his medama is so clean, his imagination is so clean, what he imagined is only the truth. His imagination tells him nevuah. The keli to be a receptacle to prophecy is clean medama. And the Hanami, the other techniques, that are involved with, attaining a madrega of nevuah. After the scene of Yeshua and Moshe, they said that the Rambam says that when Yeshua said to Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, give them public authority and they will dissipate by itself. Moshe Rabbeinu says, what, you have a con to me? You're jealous for me? says, Mitan kol am Hashem neviim. All the people of Am Yisrael will be neviim. The Rambam says that most of the people of Am Yisrael, all the people of Am Yisrael were pursuing nevuah. And it says, and most of them achieved it. Achieved the level of being able to prophesy. You know, how deep, how profound was the prophecy? Depends which olam they reached. If they reach, like you can understand, let's say, olam etzira, a person was mistaken himself. He's reached already olam etzira. In olam etzira, 10 years is like a minute, like an hour. Okay? Usually you can foresee what will happen in the next minute, what will happen in an hour. So people who have, let's say, prophecy in the Dreg of Olam Etzira, the same Mashal, the same as 100 years old, whatever. So they can tell what's going to happen in 100 years. In Olam HaBriya, person who reaches there, this is the nevuah, you know, Shayahu. But there's a person can see 2,000 years, 5,000 years. This 5,000 years is like a minute here. So within a minute, you can perceive what will happen 500 years. You can see it. Then you move Moshe Rabbeinu's Olam Atzilus. He already knows everything. So the nevuah, it comes from the koyach hamedame, from the imagination, from emunah, and the Navi is called the choizer, right? Somebody who sees, as opposed to a chacham. L'shma d'mi chachamim is called hearing. So the going up level by level from being a chacham to being a navi is the difference between hearing and seeing. Hearing is a level of faith, right? You hear something, hear a lion roaring. Says, oh, there's a lion. How do you know there's a lion? Maybe there's a tape recorder behind the wall that is, making the sound of a lion. You believe the sound that you hear. This is, because you don't hear the thing itself, you hear the sound, something that is emanating from that. But the level of sight is that you see something. This is, you can see the stars. I mean, and when you know what you see, it's not. In Matan Torah, Am Yisrael reached the level. They all reached the level of nevuah. That's what he says. The Chol Ha'am and all the people, roim es hakolos, they see the sounds. They see the voices. This is Madrega of nevuah, where Emunah and Yediyah become one, and this is Nefnom. So when a person is zecher to a yira shleima, that creates a malach, and this malach is mashpi in nevuah. We are able to know. You know. We can also know. What can we know? We know, for instance, something that for other people can be either a theoretical principle that they believe in, be'erach, and for some people is something which is out of twilight zone. You ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he gives you. He answers you. And there's a seder to that. The more vital the thing that you're looking for, the more you need to ask. But the thing is that you need to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu all the time, for everything. in thought and in speech, and if you can't do it in speaking, talk to Kosh Baruch Hu with your mind, asking for this, asking for that, all the time. You reach a madrega, you keep on keeping on, and slowly you build upon it until you come to the point that it's the most positive thing for you that you need to talk to Kosh Baruch Hu. And even then, the madregas upon madregas, to go, patience, this, that. Why I don't have patience? Because it's still not clear to me. It's still not a b'chinas yediyah. I don't see it. I hear it, and I see it a little bit. The whole union of apathy is derived from the fact that people don't believe. Why don't people, pursue careers or whatever? They don't believe they'll succeed. But once they succeed, they start running after it. You have an impetus to run after. The same thing with Limud Torah. Same thing with Tefillah. Bina says in the Torah Gimel that's why Tefillah is Pishtayim. The minute the Kodesh Baruch Hu answers you for the first thing, whoa, okay. Now I got something in my hands. I can get places. But it gets more and more and more and more. Rav Nosson said that he couldn't do anything without being misbirthed first. He couldn't. How do you know what to do? And this is b'chinas yediyah. Just to sort of like finalize this particular nekuda, speak about this Ian of his Beidadus, speaking to Hakadosh Baruch Hu. What this is about. There is the voice of Hakadosh Baruch Hu in the world that is coming. It says, Chol Yom Shechina Baskol. It says Ma'achorev. Baskol comes from Sinai. It says who hears it? The voice of Hakadosh Baruch Hu is called Kol Yosha, a straight voice. A person cannot hear this voice. The only way that this voice can be heard, it's called Kol Yosha or Yosha, is when it's so big, it's so immense that nobody can hear it, nobody can see it. When it hits something else and it bounces off, it reflects from something else, it's diminished, then you can see it. The light of the sun is so big, is so strong, you can't look at it. If a person looks at the sun, they get blind. So the light of the sun hits the moon, reflects off the moon. Now, what light are you seeing? You see the light of the sun. But the moon, because it's Gashmius, it lowers the illumination of this, and you can solve it. The same thing is with the Emes. The Emes of Kodesh Baruch Hu is 100%. But it's so absolute that nobody has the keli to contain it. It has to be bounced off something else, a das of this and a das of that. So what we have is a person here's the bounce of Or Yasha, what reality says. Now that reality hits his kalim, it bounces off him. So he is giving over, kol chayzer off a kol chayzer. He's bouncing off of a sound that's already bounced off something else. And somebody who hears him bounces it off further. And each time it bounces off, it becomes lesser and lesser and lesser, more twisted, more. And at the end, when it comes out, when we were kids, we used to play broken telephone. Did you play broken telephone when you were kids? No, broken telephone is that somebody says something to a kid's ear. That kid says to another kid in his ear. That's it, another kid is, and at the end, the person says, and you see what's the difference between the first thing that he said and what it came out. Because each one, the first one is a kol yashar, as it were, and the one that gave it over is already a kol chayzer, and the second one is a kol chayzer of a kol chayzer, and then a kol chayzer. And at the end, it came out, it's like a, yeah. Yeah. The first person will say, that the person went in the street and gave tzedakah to an oni, and the last person will say that a monkey went and stole a banana. It's just the way it reflects. And the thing is that all we have, our perception of ourselves, our perception of our family, what should we do, what should we not do, is a result of gazillion kol chayzer, shem kol chayzer, shem kol chayzer. And we believe it, 100%. The idea is that we go to Kodesh Baruch Hu, who is the source of the Kol Yosher, or the Emes Hamiti, and you tell the Kodesh Baruch Hu everything the way you see it. And you ask the Kodesh Baruch Hu to illuminate, to synchronize your perception of reality with the Emes Dik Kol Yosher, with the Emes Hamiti. The thing is, you can always get the emes, vis-a-vis the madrega that you're holding. As you go along, you see more and more distortions, whatever, because you went a high madrega. Every day you have to go to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and you have to lay it down the way you see it. That's why it's very good when you go to make his way of this. Start it by talking about what happened to you during the day. I spoke to somebody and he said something to me and it really hurt my feelings and I didn't know what to do. And start with, and let it go. Open it up. Then you reach a certain nakuda, then okay, don't push, but stay quiet a little bit. Let it come to you. Don't push. And usually, if you stay with it, then the malachim come. They bump you. They don't want you to sit there. Do anything, but don't sit here speaking to Kodesh Baruch Hu. That means you have dominion over them. You get up. Enough. You can't. You're going crazy. If you stick with it, usually 20 minutes to half an hour, things open. You're cracking open this shell of Elam Haza. And then you start talking Be'emes. And when you start talking Be'emes, suddenly you get realization. It's not like you don't hear voices or whatever it is. Suddenly you realize, many of us can be very frustrated. Why do we keep on doing things that we know we need not to do? And we keep on repeating them and repeating them and repeating them. And we're like, what's going on with me? I'll give you a silly example, okay? A person neglects to cut his toenails. And the result, it makes a hole in his socks. And he's resolved, I'm going to cut my toenails, I didn't want to cut my toenails. Then he looks, he has a hole in his socks. Again. How many times I told myself I will clip my toenails so I don't get no holes in my socks, and again, I ruin another pair of socks. It's just a small little example. It gets bigger and bigger. What's going on? I keep on keeping up. And you can get so frustrated. How come things that normal people, I don't know, with half the IQ that I have, can do that thing that I cannot possibly accomplish with half their brains tied up behind their back just to make the competition fair. Everybody can do it and I can do it. I don't understand it. I don't know if it ever happened to you. So you see this based on this, and suddenly you get realization, a question you can get. When was I different? Like ever? This is my childhood. Was I anything like something happened to me in the middle? Suddenly I became a bum. I mean, like until whatever this age, I was fantastic. I could do everything, and suddenly I became a bum. No, it wasn't like that. No, so maybe the MS is that that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to function in a life, with these abilities, tied behind my back. I can try to clip my toenails whenever I remember it, but yeah, I will keep on having holes in my sides. What can I do? This is my nisoyans. One person has nisoyan with machshavas, one person has nisoyan with taivas moment. Every person has his own machshavas, but the point is that what does this mean? What is this? Was I ever any different? It's only a synchronization of the way I perceive myself, the word, my or choizer, with the or yosha. What is the emes? The emes is I was always like that. It's normal. That's my normal. Okay, doesn't mean I'm supposed to spade that I still have to fight it, whatever it is, but I shouldn't get frustrated at a time like this. It's not like, everybody's okay, but only when it came to create me, Kodesh Baruch Hu was out to lunch. I mean, what's going on? The answer is that, so this pshat is that I synchronize myself with the Or Yashar, according to Mama Dream. Now the thing is that when you do it once, twice, 3 times, whatever it is, you get to know it. Like one of the Picorso that came close to Rabbeinu, and one of them spoke to Reb Nosson, and he said, "Oh, have you ever seen a Kodesh Baruch Hu?" He said, "Yes." You get to a certain point that yes, you see Hashem. You see Hashem in things that you do. You see Hashem with everything that you ask. You see everything. Yes, you see Hashem. All the time. That's the milchama of Yaakov and Esau. Do you see Hashem? Or do you see the trappings, the box? I told you that a beer of wine said that what was the difference between secular history and providential history? He said that he's a grandfather many times over. They tell him that the grandson has a birthday, 3-year-old. So he says he's making a research. What is the most appropriate gift that will help this kid be the genius that he will undoubtedly become? And he finds what this gift is, buys it, and he gives it to his grandson. And for the rest of the afternoon, as the kid is playing with the box. So Esav is playing with the box. Yaakov is dealing with the content. Hashem should help us, Bezat Hashem, be the children of Yaakov, be the children of Kodesh Baruch Hu, be zoche to dominion of the Malachim, and be zoche Bezat Hashem, Binyan Yerushalayim, Binyan Besamigdash Bezat Hashem, and Bezat Hashem is zoche to be see Mashiach Bezat Hashem sooner nowadays. I apologize for any inarticulation. I'm just like recovering from a cold, so